conscious faculties come from? How do we explain them? Science is supposed to explain important regularities in the universe or in our experience. Well, here's one of the most important essential regularity, the fact that we experience. And according to the Vedic viewpoint, the senses, our ability to see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and also our ability to act, for example, use of the hands to manipulate things, use of our feet to move around, use of our tongue to communicate with each other. These are essential parts of the universe. They don't appear in the body from physical interactions, but they're built into the universe. And so I want to go through and show that there is, in fact, an inconceivable energy that's manifesting these things. We have to come to this conclusion because, on the one hand, they're real. They're producing a real effect in the world. The fact that I can see enables me to change the physical world. So there's an energy there. But from the physical point of view, it's an inconceivable energy. You can't describe it physically, and you can't explain it physically. So we have an inconceivable, non-physical energy which is producing these things. Okay, let's start with perception. It's generally accepted that there's a problem in explaining perception. Some scientists say, yeah, there's a problem, but it's no big deal. We'll get there. One well-known worker in this area, David Chalmers, he says no, there's an explanatory gap. Even if you have a description of a brain with the neurons and all like that, there's an explanatory gap between that and the experience of consciousness. There's no link between a description of a brain or any kind of state of a brain on the one hand and consciousness on the other hand. So Chalmers says, I suggest that the theory of consciousness should take experience as fundamental. In other words, he's saying, okay, let's take experience as a fundamental element, part of what's given. Somebody called Krellenstein, he's pointed out further that there's no way that you'll ever make a physical theory about how the brain produces consciousness. He says, however, there can be no concepts for explaining the brain's production of consciousness, since the property to be explained, consciousness, is itself paradigmatically unobservable. Any observation-based concept will therefore be unable to connect to consciousness in the way required of a full explanation of consciousness. So he's saying, you can't see what consciousness is. You can't describe consciousness. So how on earth are you ever going to describe where it comes from? There's no possibility of making a consistent physical theory. And the orthodox interpretation of quantum mechanics, one quantum physicist, Henry Stapp, he says, the theory, that means quantum physics, it's constructed to be fundamentally about our experiences, which therefore become the basic elements of the theory. So in other words, the Vedic viewpoint is that perception is an essential part of the universe. And the new scientific understanding is that perception is an essential elemental part of the universe. They're both coming together. So we see that from the point of view of logic and from the point of view of the Vedic viewpoint, that consciousness is due to an inconceivable, non-physical energy.